And a very pleasant good evening to everyone. It is Monday night, October 8th, 2018. And yes, Virginia, it actually is October. This year is just flying by. And we'd like to thank you all for tuning into a very special edition of the Connoisseurs of Wrestling. We have a great subject for you tonight. We have the full house. The gang is all here talking about monster heels here in the month of October, in addition to some other supernatural characters that we're going to be giving some love to. It's horror themed, it's scary themed, it's butcher themed, and that's the theme of tonight's show, talking about Abdullah the Butcher. As mentioned earlier, the full crew's here, including the newest connoisseur, the man that is going to cry like a little girl on Thursday when I beat the crap out of him in our draft of Two Guys One Sport, George Atsavis. George, how you doing?
Mr. Kensington, I am doing well. I'll be doing even better after we talk about this legend, and I'll be doing best after I pound you into paste Thursday at 9/8 Central.
See, I hear your gums flapping, but I can't make out the words. I don't speak the loser. So, on that note, we'll. That was mean.
Wow.
It brings out the violence in us. Okay. Speaking of drafts, the lady that destroyed us in the connoisseurs draft a couple of weeks ago and made George say some dirty words towards her. Legends Lover is in the house. LL, my dear, how are you feeling tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Just no voice tonight.
Well, we are going to make sure that you get your chance to say whatever that you'd like to say about this particular man, because we know that our final connoisseur is a big fan. Pretty much the driving force behind tonight's episode, the guy that's going to be giving us the most info. He is the godfather of podcasting, the one, the only, Taker's Minion. TM, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Good evening, everyone. It's the intro I have for Abdullah is, he is he was one of the most feared rule breakers in all of professional wrestling, and he wrestled for almost 50 years. From taking a table or taking a wooden chair and breaking it over someone's head and wearing the opponent out with the wooden leg, all the way to and including the ever-present fork in the boot.
Not only is he a heel, but he's the most brutal.
Yes, the most brutal heel there ever was. That's why I said the most feared rule breaker. The man, if you see any pictures of him today, or if you see him, you'll notice on his forehead the deep divots in his forehead from the blading from the years, over the years that he's done. He's just one rough and tumble guy that was known as he himself came up with this term in wrestling, a cooler. He would come in if you had a baby face that was too hot, he'd come and cool him down. That was his job. And he never signed with any one promotion for a long period of time. He'd go into a promotion for a month, 6 weeks, leave. He traveled around the country and around the world doing just that.
Well, I bet you a lot of people don't know that he actually came from Canada and he trained up there with one person. He trained at Stu Hart's.
Well, I mean, you talk about the worst of both worlds. You have the shooting ability of Stu Hart versus the insanity of the Butcher gimmick. I mean, that's a frightening proposition to think about somebody that has not only the ability to maim you with cutlery, but to stretch you at the same time. That's a sobering thought.
Very much so. George, what do you got to say about this man?
The history speaks for itself. You look at a guy who drew money all over the world for decades upon decades. Monsters come and go in wrestling, but a legend like Abby could stay fresh, whether he was in New York or Mid-Atlantic or Mid-South or out West or especially in Puerto Rico. It's just his resume is unimpeachable.
Yeah, just think of the amount of money he generated for Carlos Colon.
Absolutely, for decades.
I mean, the matches he had down there with Andre the Giant. I mean, they're on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. They're on YouTube. I hope they're not for the squeamish either.
No,
because both of them bleed like stuck hogs. Both of them.
A lot of color, a lot of juice.
That's something I miss today. I really do.
I miss. It's not just the juice; it's the intensity that came with it.
Yes,
it's
like when Samoa Joe got his nose busted in that match with Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yes.
And he said that was one of his greatest matches. They said the intensity suddenly picked up when he started bleeding.
The intensity. Yep.
He sensed it, and that's what Abby was good for. He was intense in the ring. He's, outside of the ring and out of character, he's a gentle guy. But again, in the ring and in character, he was one of the most meanest sons of bitches that ever walked the planet of the earth. And it's just amazing what he did. I don't think he has an equal anywhere in professional wrestling.
In terms of longevity, I don't think he has an equal. In terms of a main eventer who drew for as long as he did at the level he did, I believe he is unparalleled in North America.
Well, he debuted in 1958 at the age of 17. And I'm scanning through here.
I mean, he's still
as late as 2011, by my information. He returned to Georgia Championship Wrestling as a mentor and advisor to a wrestler known as the Congo Warrior. So,
okay.
And in 2009, he made it to the Decatur Book Festival, facing off against Michael Muhammad Knight.
So yeah, he drew money for 50 years.
Yeah.
Like that's as good as it gets, guys.
Yeah.
An absolute all-timer.
Yeah. You're not going to believe who his favorite wrestler was. Or his favorite wrestler to face. I should say favorite wrestler to ever face in his career.
Who?
Lou Thesz.
Oh, the shooter. The original shooter. And Lou Thesz, if you were not a tough guy, Lou Thesz wanted nothing to do with you. So the fact that Abby and Thesz wrestled as often as they did tells you that Lou Thesz respected the hell out of him. And if Lou Thesz respected the hell out of you, that's good enough for me. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
that's a stamp of approval that I also agree with.
Well, that's the interesting thing about Abdullah the Butcher, because so many people remember his run in the 80s and 90s when wrestling started to go national. But the list of performers that he worked against in the business is astounding. I'm just gonna round.
It's a who's who, but go on.
It really is. It really is. It's a who's who. Lou Thesz, we were just talking about. Billy Robinson, of course, the favorite of the connoisseurs of wrestling. We have Jumbo Tsuruta and Giant Baba in Japan. Andre the Giant.
And all these guys are the real deal in terms of their own stature and shooting ability and drawing ability. And for them to work with a guy named Abdullah, Billy Robinson did not work with scrubs. You know, Lou Thesz did not work with scrubs. Lou Thesz, for example, and if Lou Thesz thought you were a coward or weakling, cough, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, cough. You know, he wanted nothing to do with you. And so for him to think that highly of Abdullah the Butcher really tells you all you need to know about the guy. But Mr. Kensington, please go on.
Well, the list of managers that he worked with was almost as impressive as the list of wrestlers. Of course, he also worked with Dr. Jerry Graham, Vince McMahon's favorite wrestler. The Tolos brothers worked with Bobo Brazil. And that's, of course, not including the people that he worked with as wrestling started to go national. Of course, you had your Dusty Rhodes, your Manny Fernandez, your Carlos Colons, Sting, very famous program in WCW with Sting and Cactus
Jack.
Yes,
the infamous accidental electrocution by Cactus Jack.
The Chamber of Horrors match, which is a Chamber of Horrors in two different contexts, depending on how you watch that match. As a
That
kid,
match
it
was-
was
That match was
terrifying.
so bad. That match was so bad.
As a kid, it was terrifying, and as an adult, it was terrifyingly bad. So, but the managers, I just want to run off some of these names. Now, there's some in here that old school fans would remember, like Buddy Colt or Bearcat Wright and
Mhm.
Rock Hunter. But we've also got some legendary names like Gary Hart, Eddie Creechman, the Grand Wizard, J.J. Dillon, Oliver Humperdinck. And my personal, not my favorite, but a personal guilty pleasure, let's say, Paul Jones, number 1. And Chicky Star, too. Got to give Chicky Star some love. Just an absolute amazing career for someone that, I don't believe gets a lot of respect for being a great worker. I think there's something to be said about his ability to draw as an attraction. But Abdullah the Butcher has never been known as necessarily the best worker in wrestling history. I think that makes the longevity of his career all that much more impressive, given the fact that he was a box office attraction and he did draw so much money for so long.
Go on, takers. Go on.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if he was to debut today, people would say he sucks because his work rate is he doesn't do anything on the top rope. The man was 6 foot tall, 330 pounds. You don't want him doing a moonsault off the top rope, do you? It would be insanity.
You bring it up. You bring it up. I think a guy like Abdullah the Butcher, if you took, let's say, 1975 Mid-South Abdullah the Butcher, and you transported him to 2018, I think he would do better than than you think, because a guy like him is so unique that he would just draw money just because of the spectacle. Which last time I checked, wrestling is a spectacle, is it not?
Supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. So, and some of that stuff is pretty timeless. So I think he'd be okay.
But most of his stuff would not get over. He could not do today.
Well, they're in
PG.
Right.
Yeah.
In the WWE.
Yeah, in WWE, he would not be allowed to do what he's done. The forks, the gigging, because he gigged his opponents too. Hitting people in the head with chairs. He wouldn't get over in WWE for sure. Although I could book a fantasy match of him against Braun Strowman and just sit there and watch myself
and count your dollars. Yeah,
and count my dollars. Yes,
because now with all the damage he does, the headshots, the bloodletting, all that stuff, none of that would fly today.
He was definitely a man of his era, but the fact that his era was 40 years tells you how good he was at his job.
Well, let's get into brass tacks here, because there's something about Abdullah the Butcher that really can't be separated from the performer. And I'm going to speak on this kind of veiled, but I'm getting to the point of it. What makes a truly transcendent wrestling star great? Like, what does a wrestling star have to be on some level to truly be one of the all-time greats? They have to be real, correct? I mean, there have to be
authentic.
Authentic, right.
Yes.
Abdullah the Butcher made you believe that this son of a bitch was literally psychotic. You did not know. There was a 50-50 chance. Like, you could see the match before and you go, yeah, that's fake. Abdullah the Butcher comes out there with a fork, starts stabbing people in the head. You see the creases in his forehead where he's been stabbed himself, and you're like, I think they got this guy out of a mental asylum. I honestly think this guy is really crazy.
And I mentioned that in the past on this show about Steve Austin in the Attitude Era. Yeah, everything is fake, but Steve Austin was real. Abdullah the Butcher was 100% real.
And with Abdullah the Butcher, you figure what else makes a legend is look at how long he transcended. 40 years.
No, closer to 50. Like I said, he debuted in 1958. He's his last match that is documented in my notes is in 2011.
Well, you think about it this way too. He was during an era where wrestling looked real. Everything looked real. Where a lot of the stuff today, I'm sorry to say, it looks too fake. That's also a difference. He was in an era where wrestling was more believable.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to the type of wrestling that you want to see, and that is the dichotomy of modern wrestling. You have people that love the flips, the dives, the high impact moves, but it requires so much cooperation and so much choreography that it almost ruins the illusion of a hard fought match. Where I think everyone here, I think I can speak for everyone here, you prefer the matches where it looks like it's an actual struggle, like there's something literally like a fight is going on. And Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, the reference that was made earlier, is a perfect example of that. Versus a Will Ospreay versus a Ricochet, which is a tremendous match in its own right, but it's a match that requires both men to be helping one another, because you can't physically do some of that stuff without help. Abdullah the Butcher is the quintessential make it look real. And that's partly why his offense was so simplistic. Elbow drops, chops. He had a limited background in martial arts, I think judo and karate. So, I mean, he incorporated some chops and a few kicks, but he was basically a punch and kick brawler. But because he was so psychotic in the ring, he was so bloody, he was so maniacal, you could buy this as legitimate. He made you believe that he really was a butcher. And those types of characters, they don't come along in wrestling very much anymore.
At all. They don't come along in wrestling at all.
No, the most recent character that was even in the same ballpark might be like a Bray Wyatt, and even that is far muted from what Abdullah the Butcher was. So
there isn't
era.
There isn't a wrestler today that I could put in the same category or class as Abdullah the Butcher.
He was a unique man.
Hell, he was a unique man back in the 60s and 70s when I first started seeing him. He was unique. Even he scared me because I seen him at the amphitheater, George, and yeah.
So he scared you as a young fan?
Yes.
He scared my dad. I had breakfast with my dad yesterday, and I told him about this show. And I said, Dad, I'm doing a podcast on Abdullah the Butcher, and he says that guy was terrifying.
He scared the shit out of me. So.
And he's like, and you know, he's like, we all knew it was fake. Like, we all knew wrestling was fake. We weren't stupid. But if you'll be damned if you tell Abdullah the Butcher anything he was doing was fake. You know?
Yeah.
Nothing phony about that guy.
Yeah.
You know, and
when he was
my dad told me he used to scare you.
Yeah, he scared me. He scared me.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't want to go near the ring to get autographs from the other guy. You know, the babyface. I was like, no. You know, the first time he was there, yeah, I did it. But after the match, I was like, I ain't going near that ring again. He may take my head off. You know, or take my arm. You know, grab my arm, pull me in the ring, and start beating the hell out of me. Nope, thank you. Don't want it.
And plus,
exactly.
too, you didn't necessarily want to get the autograph of a babyface, considering the babyface might not be living much longer.
One of my favorite things about Abdullah, and it's very similar to Andre, is that because of his uniqueness and his size, he was very much a special attraction guy.
Yeah,
a guy you would bring in every 6 months to make some money, and then he'd go to the next territory. I think in an era like today, that wouldn't work, which is part of the reason why Bray Wyatt is so stale. But he was the perfect wrestler for his time and place.
Yeah, you know, Andre was around and thrived during the territory eras because Vince Sr. would loan him out to AWA or to Mid-South or Mid-Atlantic or Championship Wrestling from Florida or from Texas to WCCW. You know, to go down there for a couple of months, help generate some money, and then come back.
And it kept him fresh. He never burned out of territory.
No, and that's the same thing Abdullah the Butcher did. He would be there for a short period of time, have a major storyline with the top babyface, knock him down and move on.
Knock him down, put him over, move on, and then come back and he'd still be just as over.
Yep.
For a guy who did a ton of jobs, he never lost his heat. And I think that's a testament to how good he was at being a wrestler.
Yep.
It's a testimony to his talent. It's a testimony to his character. It's his box office appeal. And obviously, he had to be easy to do business with because he was in the business for so long. But, I was sitting there thinking, while we were talking about Abdullah the Butcher and some of our memories of him, it came to mind two competing facts here, one of which he wrestled for a lot of different companies over the year. If you just go off the list, we're talking some of the preeminent territories, World Class, the Carolinas with Crockett, Big Time Wrestling out of Detroit, that's the Sheik's territory. Spent a little bit of time wrestling with Stu Hart up in Calgary, wrestled in Montreal, he wrestled in Georgia and in Florida. He went overseas. He wrestled for All Japan, but he also wrestled for some of the other promotions in Japan. He made appearances for Dragon Gate, for Big Japan Pro, for Hustle. The less said about Hustle, the better, maybe. He wrestled Stampede. He wrestled, especially in Puerto Rico, which we're going to be talking about his feud with Carlos Colon here in a little bit, but for the WWC, obviously. Just wrestling all over the place. He made guest appearances in ECW in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Made an appearance in Ring of Honor in the 2000s. But for all of the places he worked, there is one notable company that he never worked for, and that's the WWE. He never went to New York. And I'm sitting here thinking,
nope, he didn't.
Is he possibly the most famous pro wrestler who wrestled in the era of the WWE to have never gone to New York?
It would have been Sting until 2015. Excluding some of the Japanese guys and the Mexico guys, I think he's the most famous North American based wrestler. Never go to New York.
Yeah.
Can you think of someone? Are we forgetting someone?
I
can't think of anyone.
Even a lot of the top Mexican and Japanese talents wound up working in New York at some point. As a matter of fact, most of the top Japanese talent did work New York. At some point, you look at some of the greats. Baba worked New York for a time or two.
Inoki worked New York.
Yeah, Tatsumi Fujinami worked.
Yeah, Fujinami's in WWE's Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and you see, that's the funny thing. You mentioned something. Going back to what you said, Abdullah never wrestled or worked for Vincent J with capital city WWF, or for Vincent K with WWF WWE, and yet he's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
when they were in Atlanta, right?
I think so.
He wrestled in Georgia with World Championship. In that angle that was Sting, he was the gift.
Right.
The Cactus Jack gave Sting.
One of the funniest angles in the history of pro wrestling, actually. But I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to have to talk about that. That was so funny. Poor Craig Pittman. He just got the business end of a beating. Well, hell, I guess we could tell the story now. And it was Starrcade 91 for WCW. And if you're not familiar with Starrcade 91, or WCW for that matter, given how far off we are from it, basically, they ran a gimmick. It was a 2-ring battle royal called Battle Bowl. And in order to qualify for Battle Bowl, what you had to do was compete in a series of tag team matches on the undercard of the show. So imagine the setup for War Games where you got 2 rings side by side. Except you don't have a steel cage in this particular instance. You just have the 2 rings. And you're wrestling in a series of tag matches. The winners of the tag matches get into the Battle Royal. You have to be thrown into one ring, and then once you're thrown from that ring to the other, you could be thrown over the top and eliminated. It's convoluted. It's WCW for you. But
it was Dusty. It was Dusty with the book.
Well, yeah. So, but if the gimmick of the tag matches, they weren't regular tag matches. They were the lethal lottery. And what they did was they drew names, and you were mixed and matched with random partners. Well, at the time, Abdullah the Butcher was friends in storyline with Cactus Jack. And so naturally, Abdullah the Butcher and Cactus Jack drew opposite partners of each other. And so Abdullah kept beating up his tag team partner and tried to be Cactus Jack's tag team partner, even though they were technically wrestling against each other. So
yeah, I remember that whole thing.
Craig Pittman, he was beaten up on the ramp, and he crawled the entire match to try and get into the match. And then when he finally gets to the ring, he gets rolled up for the pin. And so it was just a hilarious little spot there. Poor Craig Pittman.
Poor guy.
Yeah, just got the snot beat out of him by his own tag team partner, and then he got pinned by his own tag team partner somehow. So
yeah.
But yeah, Abdullah the Butcher never worked WWE, and so that brings up obvious question. We know that he wasn't going to be able to do some of the more violent stuff, like the knife, the forks. But I mean, are we not a little bit surprised that Vince Jr. never considered Abdullah the Butcher for a run with Hulk Hogan?
Well,
maybe in '84 or '85.
My question to you, Mr. Kensington, and Mr. Minion and Miss Lover, do you think he may have considered Abdullah the Butcher, and then Hulk Hogan put the kibosh on that? It's Hulk Hogan.
Possible.
It's Hulk Hogan, you know.
Well, see, it's interesting you bring that up. If you look, the opponents that Hulk Hogan faces between 1984 and 1988, they are dramatically different by the time you get to the end of Hogan's run. Now, early on in his run, he's wrestling guys like Dr. D. David Schultz, the Iron Sheik, Big John Studd. He's bleeding a lot in matches. If you watch the old Hulkamania videotape that Coliseum Video put out, he's bleeding quite a lot in some of these matches. He's wrestled a lot of cage matches. Got a very famous one in Madison Square Garden against Don Baracco. That was
great match, by the way. Fun match.
Yes, I love that cage match.
Fun match. That's what like early '85, right?
Very early '85, if that. It might even be.
That may be a future match of the week. Is that on the network?
It might be.
It might be. That may be. I may have to watch that again. I haven't seen that in maybe 10, 15 years. But go on. I'm sorry.
No, there were two tapes. There was the original Hulkamania tape, which didn't have it, but then there was the Incredible Hulk Hogan tape, which did have it. It had the return match with Iron Sheik from Philadelphia, which was bloody. That was a bloody match. And then they had the cage match, which was also a bloody affair. But by the time you get to '86, Hogan is not bleeding in the matches anymore. You're not seeing the blade jobs anymore from Hogan. And he's wrestling different people, whereas he was wrestling smaller guys for the most part in '84 and '85. By '86, he's wrestling guys like King Kong Bundy or Afa or Sika of the Wild Samoans. Andre the Giant in '87, of course, is when Andre turns heel. And then you get Zeus in '89, and then you get the parade of just these big old guys. Probably the toughest person that Hogan wrestled post '88 would be Haku. And that's no disrespect to Haku.
No, it's not. The reason I chuckle is that I saw the whole thing finally happen with the firing squad. I actually found it on YouTube and was watching it. And I was like, oh, and for that man being in his 60s, Haku being in his 60s,
looks good.
He looks solid as he always did, and yeah, he looks like he can still kick somebody's ass.
He probably can still kick somebody's ass, but I think that's more Hogan. That's more Hogan figuring out that, hey, I don't need to do anything besides show up, cut my ear, flex my arms, and we'll make a lot of money. You know.
Well, here's the $1 million question. Then I'm going to pose this to everyone. I'll let everybody that has an opinion weigh in on it, and then I want to get LL into the conversation and get her expertise. If you had to choose one dream opponent for Hulk Hogan. And I say dream opponent in the sense that they never were. Not that this would have been like a 5-star match or anything. Who would you rather have seen? Hulk Hogan versus Abdullah the Butcher? Hulk Hogan versus Nikita Koloff? Or Hulk Hogan versus Bruiser Brody?
Wow.
Yeah, ponder that thought.
This is like Hulkamania era Hogan, like 85, 86.
We're talking 84 to 88.
If I am guaranteed that he will show up and work hard, which is no certainty, give me Bruiser Brody.
So you're going Bruiser Brody.
I'm going in my hypothetical. I'm going Bruiser Brody. Yeah.
Taker, who you got? Where do you think you're leaving?
My hypothetical. I love Bruiser Brody. You know that is a big name, but I would love to see Abdullah the Butcher and him work. For the simple fact that how insane would that match have been?
Can I change my vote to a write-in?
You can. I was going to say, I think I'm leaning towards Nikita in 86. That would have been like a monster match.
It would have been. All these matches would have been great. Yeah. But I want to change my vote to a write-in to Stan the Lariat Hansen.
I had him in my head too.
I want to change my vote to that just for the laughs. Just for the laughs of Stan Hansen just knocking that blonde bastard out of his shoes.
Well, you see, we know how we were talking about people, being scared of Abdullah the Butcher. Wrestlers were scared of Stan Hansen because he was legally blind in the ring. I'm not sure Hogan would have been excited to get in there throwing haymakers with Stan the Lariat, but
yeah,
it would have
been. That's my write-in vote is Stan the Lariat.
Would have been a fun match for sure.
But my answer to almost everything is more Stan Hansen.
Yeah.
What do you want for dinner, Stan Hansen? That's my answer to everything.
Good God, George.
Man likes what he likes. So.
I mean, y'all know me. I'm a simple man. Just give me guys beating the crap out of each other. Yep. And who beat the crap out of people more than Stan Hansen?
Bruiser Brody.
Bruiser, Abdullah. That's a very select list. So
it's a small list.
It's a pantheon of people here.
Yeah.
Legends lover. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, let's get Alan to jump in here. When was the first time that you saw Abdullah work? Did you get a chance to watch him in the AWA or working for Dick the Bruiser's territory, or did you see him a little bit later when you started watching more of the NWA and WCW?
I saw a little bit in the AWA and more in the NWA.
You never saw him live, though?
No.
God.
When I started seeing him, it was like in the 1970s.
Okay. So you kind of got him almost really kind of in the middle of his career then.
Yeah.
From the 50s to the 90s, that would be right there kind of at the prime of him.
And to answer that other question, God, can I pick two?
Yeah, go for it.
I like to see Abdullah and Hulk and Bruiser and Hulk. Anybody that can kick the shit out of Hulk Hogan and mess his pretty face.
That's my girl. My girl right there. Takers, hold on with both hands.
Hey, get in line, pal. There's a line that starts right here.
I don't like Hulk Hogan at all. Never did.
I thought you were about to say you don't like me at all. Never did. I was about to have a cry. No, you
Hulk Hogan I never liked.
You definitely come down on Team Roddy Piper then in that whole deal.
Oh yeah.
So
I wasn't the greatest. I wasn't the biggest fan of him, because to me, and this we know this is off subject, and I want to get it back as soon as I can, so I'm gonna cut it short. Hulk Hogan. Let's see the best way to put it. During World War II, over in Europe, there were two generals that were prima donnas in the Allies. One was from England, Sir Bernard Law Montgomery.
Yep.
The other one graduated the Virginia Military Institute and West Point. He was General George S. Patton. Both of them were a couple of freaking prima donnas. Hulk Hogan was the prima donna of all prima donnas in WWF, WWE. Even in WCW, he was one of those ones that had the favored nation status. So anybody came in making more money than him, he got an instant raise. He was never that great of a worker in the ring. He wouldn't sell for hardly anybody. So,
but yet he was the most over person there was.
Which I never understood how he got so over.
Because the secret of wrestling is that you don't need to actually be good at wrestling to be over. And it's something that not a lot of people remember, unfortunately.
Well, Michael Hayes we're out of that, so.
Tying that back to Abdullah the Butcher, by any objective status, Abdullah the Butcher was not a good in-ring worker.
No.
I think that's fair to say. But goddamn was he over. And he was over for 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah. As a heel.
As a heel.
Without
like,
the pay.
Without what?
Without that kind of a pay. He didn't have that kind of a payday that Hulk Hogan or anybody else
No.
had.
Right.
Hulk Hogan was overpaid for what he did. He didn't know how to wrestle.
Well, I mean, this is where we get into the semantics of the argument. Now, if we want to talk about Hulk Hogan's skill level, now Hogan was more talented than he let on. He could wrestle.
Yeah, he figured out. Once he figured out that all he had to do was flex, he said, "Why would I do anything different?"
Well, I mean, if you look at Hulk Hogan from WWF versus what Hogan was doing in New Japan, it was night and day.
Or what Hulk Hogan was doing down in WWC.
Or what he did in AWA.
Right.
When he came in with Classy Freddie Brass in AWA, he could wrestle, but he wasn't that good of a wrestler.
Yeah, he didn't have like the natural fluidity in the ring, and so you could obviously argue from that perspective that he was dramatically overpaid commensurate with his quality,
with his skill.
Yeah, but
basically,
I mean,
if you put his skill level, no, Ric Flair will tell you outright he was not the greatest wrestler there was, and yet he was still better than Hulk Hogan at wrestling.
I'll agree with that.
If you come to skill, let's just say skill, Hulk Hogan didn't have it.
No,
I mean,
he drew.
Go on.
This is what I was kind of leaning at though. Well, he didn't necessarily have the same skill level as some of his peers. I don't think it's completely fair to say that he was overpaid. I mean, he drew those crowds. Let's not mince words here. I mean, yeah, he might be persona non grata today. Hulk Hogan was the biggest star in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still, to this day, world over, the most recognizable professional wrestler walking the face of the planet.
Right.
So, I mean, it's on the one sense, he was overpaid in the sense that he wasn't that good in the ring. But on the other hand,
he didn't have to be.
He didn't have to be. He drew a lot of money and he made a lot of people rich.
Well, there's also a couple other wrestlers that did have the skill, that did draw the crowds, that did make everybody rich, and they still did not make the money Hulk Hogan did.
I can't blame Hulk for that though.
Yeah.
I mean, the fans wanted what the fans wanted.
Right, but Hulk Hogan isn't the topic here.
It wasn't the fans so much. It was the companies that actually wanted him.
Well, this is the dichotomy of someone like an Abdullah versus someone like a top star. I think that's a great segue into the dichotomy between a box office attraction and permanent stars.
Right. I'm looking at some of the stuff about Abdullah, and it's a result mainly of all of his traveling that he did over all the years he wrestled. He was never a consistent championship contender.
It was almost a division
killer.
killer.
He never won a world heavyweight title of anywhere. He's had titles. He's had Canadian tag titles in Vancouver. He's had the NWF heavyweight championship. He's had tag titles all around the world.
A guy like A guy like Abdullah back in the territory eras, though, would never have won a heavyweight championship because he'd be a division killer. The same reason why Andre almost never won singles titles.
Right, because he would kill a division.
Exactly.
Well,
Abdullah's
think
the same vein. He's in the same vein.
You got Braun Strowman now. Every time he's gone for that title match, something has come up where he couldn't win it. Why? Because he kind of destroyed the division.
I agree.
I don't, sitting here thinking about it, with the possible exception of maybe some of the matches that he had with Sting, and the years would have to match up just right for this to happen. I don't really recall Abdullah the Butcher ever having world title matches, let alone being in contention to challenge.
No, he never.
I'm sure he challenged Carlos Colon for the championship down there.
Oh yeah, but he probably never won it. He never won it.
Yeah.
He never won the World Wrestling Council World Heavyweight Championship.
But around here, I don't think he's ever challenged for it anyway. He was more into destroying somebody.
That's what he was brought. That's what he was brought in for. Like I said, he was a cooler.
Well, look at some of the matches. He's had a couple matches with Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And look what he did to Rick. That put Rick so over. It was ridiculous. People felt sorry for Rick.
That takes effort.
Because of what Abdullah did. But that was Abdullah's job.
Well,
to make Rick bigger than life.
Exactly. And speaking of his job, I think that's an important dichotomy to mention too. Abdullah, for most of his career, worked the NWA territories. What's the one trademark of the NWA? Their world champions almost invariably, for most of the time, were heel wrestlers.
Yep.
It was always a big heel. I mean, think about all the heel champions. You had Harley Race, the Funk Brothers.
No, Dory Jr. was a face champion.
Depending on where he wrestled. I was going to make the same distinction with Jack Briscoe. Jack was a face wrestler, except in certain territories. When he went out west, he was a heel.
Well, look at Ric Flair. Ric Flair would be a heel, then he's a face, then he's a heel, then he's a face.
Go on.
Near the end of Rick's career, he was a face in the WCW.
Yeah.
Because of the NWO, Rick become a face. So, I mean, it's sometimes if they're getting too much, he would put Abdullah against certain ones, certain heels. If there was getting to be too much and they wanted to turn him, that was a way to turn Ric Flair face.
Yeah. You take a heel, you take your most dastardly heel and get him into a feud with Abdullah. By the time the feud's over, that dastardly heel is now the most over babyface in your company.
Yep, and you're ready to run it all back with him as a babyface.
Yep.
As you think about it, it's like certain people look at. Okay, we used Hulk Hogan before. I'll use him as an example. He was a big face, and in the WCW when the NWO come around, he wasn't getting cheered as much as he used to. That was one of the reasons he turned on Macho Man and become part of the NWO. The head of the NWO, one of the biggest heels there is. Because his fan base kind of started slowing down.
Yep.
Then when he turned back to face again, his fan base was up there. And that's what was going on with Ric Flair. A lot of it was going down, turn him face. That brought his fan base way up again.
I want to ask a question of anyone on the panel. George, you can weigh in on this. Or LL, if you feel you want to use can as well. But there is a sharp dichotomy in the fandom. Let me figure out a way to phrase this properly. What the fans view as a successful career today versus what the fans considered a successful career 20 or 30 years ago.
What
I mean by that, what I mean by that is you had individuals who were never world championship level, like Abdullah the Butcher, the quintessential heel version of this. If we're talking baby faces, I think one of the great baby face variants of this in the WWF was Jake the Snake Roberts. But whether you're talking heel or face, you have guys like Abdullah, Jake. They were never world champions. They were never going to be world champions, and they never were even really in the conversation. But they're still known today as some of the greatest wrestlers that ever lived. Just in terms of their box office appeal, their handle of psychology, their memorability. But fans today watching people look at Braun Strowman, I would wager a good bet that, majority of the people watching today would consider Braun Strowman a failure if he never wins the Universal title.
Exactly.
Well, how much of that, let me ask you this, Mr. Kensington. How much of that is due to the fact that winning a world title nowadays doesn't mean, the paper it's printed on, because they hotshot the titles so much more now than they did back then?
So because the titles are less valuable...
The titles are less valuable, therefore Strowman or whomever, Bray Wyatt, let's say, before he won his championship in 2017, should win the title, because everybody wins the title.
So the value of the title it ironically goes up because the actual value goes down. Basically.
Right. And that's the problem. A lot of fans today, and
Hulk Hogan was champion for 4 years, guys.
Bruno was a champion twice for over 11 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flair was a champion for how many years?
Who?
How many? Flair was a champion for a long time, especially once they solidified. How many years was Lou Thesz champion? Or Buddy Rogers?
How many years was Bob Backlund the WWF champion?
And then you got Nick Bockwinkel.
Did Superstar Billy Graham ever win a world championship?
Yes, he did. He won the WWF World Championship, and when he dropped it to Bob Backlund.
Okay, so he beat Morales for it.
Yeah, he beat Morales. He was the bridge. I think he held it for a year, and then dropped it to Backlund.
He beat Bruno for it.
The titles back then.
No, he beat Pedro for it.
The titles back then meant more.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me give you a name of a wrestler who never won the WWF Championship, Ted DiBiase. Is Ted DiBiase a failure because he never won the championship?
With today's fans, he would be. That's the problem. And I can tell you right now, I know people on that website, George.
Well, I mean,
that are fans of one Becky Lynch, and they're like, she needs a long run. She needs a 6 month to a year run to be a success.
But here's the deal, guys. Everybody gets a 6 month run nowadays.
And
Jinder Mahal got a 6 month run.
He had 10 months.
Yeah. Jinder Mahal got a 6 month run.
Let's be unequivocally clear here. Jinder Mahal did not deserve that run.
No, but the point is, in a postmodern wrestling company, which the WWE is, in a company where you don't need to do anything but produce television in order to make money, you don't need to sell pay-per-views, you don't need to sell house shows, you could put anybody you want at the top of your card and it doesn't matter. When you were drawing territory, in the territory days, you couldn't do that. So you had to pick your champion, and you had to pick a good tag team champion, which we've talked about on this show, to headline the B shows.
Right.
You couldn't. So therefore, the fact that Abdullah the Butcher or Jake the Snake Roberts or Ted DiBiase or Andre the Giant, never won a WWF championship, all due respect to evil Dave Hebner, that bastard.
Wait a minute. Andre the Giant did hold the championship.
Yeah, for like 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, Dave Hebner.
He beat Hulk Hogan for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did win the title.
And I wanted to throw this, just for clarification, we had a bit of a confusion earlier. Superstar Billy Graham did, in fact, beat Bruno for the title in 1977 in Baltimore, Maryland. So
yeah, I stand corrected. I looked that up
at
the same time you did. So, yeah, I thought he took it from Pedro, but no.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, back in the day, you needed certain people to hold the titles. The titles meant more.
The titles meant more, and because you needed them to draw houses.
That's right. And the title reigns were long. Somebody might lose it for a little bit, but they gain it back. Now, today, anybody can hold the title.
Yeah.
People that don't deserve it.
Yeah, like Alexa Bliss.
Whomever. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Nothing matters. The titles don't matter.
You want somebody that the fans go for that's good, that's drawing money, but yet you're giving it to these nobodies.
You couldn't do that back then, so that's why a guy like Abdullah the Butcher never won the championship. Plus, he was better. A guy like Abdullah the Butcher would have gotten stale as hell if he was sitting in the same territory for a year defending the championship.
Because look at now. You had Brock Lesnar held the Universal title. How long did Brock have it?
2 years? A year and a half? WrestleMania 2017 to SummerSlam 2018.
Nobody could beat him, really beat him. That was not somebody to put the belt on. That would be like Braun. When you got somebody like that, you can't put a belt on him because it destroys it. Now, everybody even said that belt, the Universal title, is worthless because Brock had it too long.
It is worthless.
And Brock didn't defend it all the time. But it's a worthless title now. It doesn't mean nothing.
Well, I got a question for everybody here. And this, I know this is we're talking titles and everything like that, but in the WWE, which title should be the more important title? The Universal or the WWE title?
WWE title. Full
stop. That's the more historical title. It's got all the history of the company in it.
Yeah, but they don't care about that.
The Universal title's too new.
The Universal title has got no legacy, no history, no nothing. It's had a grand total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 people, 5 people. You have had Roman. You've had, let's see, first one was Finn. Then it was Kevin. Then, let's see, Brock.
Goldberg.
No, Goldberg, then Brock, and now Roman. There's been 5 people that have held that title in the 3 years it's been in existence. And the longest reign has been to someone called Brock Lesnar, who was never around.
But the thing is like I said, titles don't mean shit now, where they did in the past. Abdullah was one. But if you need a fresh face or somebody was dying out, their fan base were not as great. They brought Abdullah in. Mm-hmm. And then refreshed. Like they say, cooler. Basically what he did is refresh that other wrestler.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a good way to restart. Good way to put it, refresh.
Yeah.
And very good way of putting it.
Hit the reset, with Abdullah, if you're facing Abdullah in your promotion, we're hitting the reset button on you, guy.
Yeah.
Well, I can remember 3 particular feuds from Crockett's era that Abdullah had, and they were 3 very distinct feuds, but they were 3 feuds that had a very similar build. He wrestled with Dusty for a little bit early on. Abdullah and you could almost say Kevin Sullivan a little bit too, more in the Florida territory than in Crockett.
Yeah, Kevin Sullivan and him were inseparable in Florida and in Georgia for that matter.
Right. Sullivan could have been considered a cooler too.
Yeah, there was very similar types of acts because Kevin Sullivan wasn't going to be a world champion either, and
great wrestler though.
Very, very underrated. Kevin Sullivan, very underrated mind of the business.
Open mic to you, Kevin Sullivan, if you ever hear us. Open mic to you.
But Abdullah kind of took over the Kevin Sullivan's role, especially when Dusty came up to the Carolinas. There was some magazine covers of the 2 feuding. Then Abdullah went into a feud with Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull, which was a very, very bloody and very memorable feud in '85 and early '86. And then, of course, Abdullah would go on to have probably his most noteworthy feud that crossed international borders with Carlos Colon. Very much active in Puerto Rico, but they made a few guest shots here in the Carolinas. I think at one of the early Starcades, as a matter of fact, Carlos Colon worked with Abdullah the Butcher. I can't remember which year exactly off the top of my head, but it seems like they wrestled at a Starcade. So, but the same basic principle applied. whenever Abdullah the Butcher rolled into town, his feuds were one of the 3 or 4 biggest things on the card. I mean, we're talking even more important than some of the titles that they had.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, and we're not talking about, necessarily the world's most exciting wrestling matches with chain wrestling holds. Once you've seen him stab somebody with a fork one time, you've pretty much seen it all the time. But you can't say he didn't draw. He drew houses all over the country.
Absolutely can't say he didn't draw. And
Because
last time I checked, the whole point of this crazy ass endeavor was putting asses in seats, right?
Every 18 inches.
Putting an ass every 18 inches. You're right.
And you look at Abdullah, people would want to come in because they want to see who he's going to meet next.
That's it. They want to see who can beat him, not who he's going to beat. Who can actually defeat
the giant? Yep.
Slay this monster, this giant monster that's coming to town to destroy our territory and all the thing that's good with our babyface. So all the things that are good are going to be completely wiped off the map by this guy.
If you got somebody that you don't like a lot, and he comes in, you want to see who he's going to disfigure or destroy.
Yeah. If he's facing your most dastardly heel, he's coming in to take him out. We know he's coming to take him out, and the crowd's going to go crazy.
Yep.
And
next week,
Abdullah versus
Abdullah the Butcher pay justice to this idiot or whomever.
Yes, and the fans would eat it up.
As well they should.
I'm sitting here getting excited.
Yeah.
But that's the job of a cooler. That was his job. Everybody in wrestling has a job.
And they don't have great coolers anymore.
Nope, they got a lot of jobbers, but they don't have the coolers they need.
Well, they don't need coolers because hardly anybody is hot anymore.
Exactly.
But that's the thing.
You can think of Braun Strowman.
No, they have a cooler. I'm sorry, hon, go ahead.
You could think of Braun Strowman as a cooler. Another one, even though he's been champion and everything else, who was another cooler? The Undertaker.
Yeah.
When they got a problem, who do they bring in now? Keep bringing back. They bring the Big Show. They bring Kane. When there's a problem that they want handled, they bring some of those guys back just for that problem.
I can see that.
So they do have a couple coolers.
But the problem is that everybody knows that's what they are.
Yeah. Like the Big Show. They make a joke of him.
Speaking of jokes, breaking news, the long-feared match between Nikki Bella and Ronda Rousey, it would appear that's on.
An Evolution. I thought we knew that.
It was rumored. Apparently, the Bellas just beat down Ronda Rousey, and yes, they apparently...
Hey, are we allowed... real quick, I don't want to get lost. Are we allowed to say that Brie Bella is a bad professional wrestler?
Oh,
Can
boy.
we say that? Am I going to get yelled at if I say something that's pretty obvious?
That's a huge can of worms.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my finger over the end broadcast button here just in case.
Whatever. I don't want to lose the thread, but okay. I said this on Thursday, guys. My life is so much better now that I don't watch Raw and SmackDown. So
yeah, I was just looking at the feed. I was flipping through and I saw that.
So did I.
Bellas
I never said Brie Bella was a great wrestler. Don't get me wrong. I don't like the Bella twins. I don't like Brie. Just what was being said and done is what I had a problem with.
Well, you know what? I think, George, honestly, we're pretty much wrapped up with the coverage of Abdullah the Butcher for today. I mean, it might not be the worst idea to broach the subject, considering it's newsworthy now. So,
well, I never said Brie Bella was the greatest wrestler either. Did she purposely go out to injure Liv Morgan? No. Was it an accident? Yes. I mean, I'm not going to
go on.
I'm not going to sit here and say she's she has great work rate and she's a great talent because she isn't. I'm not going to say she's bad and needs to go blow her brains out either. Like some people
And
have been saying.
I'm not going to say she's dangerous to everybody and everything else. I look at it, she was gone for almost 3 years. She's rusty, but she also trained with her husband. When a female is going to train against a man, she's going to have to kick harder, hit harder to just.
That makes her reckless. Then you're describing someone who's reckless.
Yeah, I agree.
Not really, because then you could say that about quite a few women.
Sure.
You can say the same thing about Sasha. You can say the same thing about Sasha in her dive. She keeps getting caught in the ropes.
Sure.
No, Natty. Would you consider Natty reckless or dangerous?
Has Natty ever kicked somebody so hard that they got knocked out?
I'm sure she has.
When she first got into wrestling, because you figure
that's it. You said when she first got into wrestling. How long has Brie Bella been doing this?
Brie Bella's been out for years.
Well, then why is she in a ring then? If she can't control herself, if she can't control herself and is a danger to herself or others, then she shouldn't be in a ring.
I agree with George. That's kind of my perspective all along.
She should have been training with a woman.
Sure, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
But you also got to remember one thing, George. The target area for those the yes kicks on a woman is infinitesimally smaller than on a guy. Because one of the things that's prevalent in the WWE, especially on the women's side of the roster, is what?
Boobs.
The implants.
I'm not absolving her of that because Liv Morgan may or may not have fake boobs.
No,
I'm not absolving her of it either, but
I mean, have you ever seen the movie Goodfellas?
Yes, I
love
have.
Goodfellas.
There's a great scene in Goodfellas where excuse me, I'm sorry. I misspoke. I confused my Robert De Niro movies. Have you ever seen the movie Casino?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay. There's a great scene in Casino where Robert De Niro exposes a gambling ring. These two guys are counting blackjack cards, and they're like tapping their leg, and it sends a signal to the other guy sitting across the table. And he knows, on the wire. And De Niro kind of figures it out, and he gets the guy, and he goes to the pit boss, who's like the son of a senator or something, right? The only reason he has the job is because he is related to someone. And he goes, one of two things happen, and I'm paraphrasing here. Either you were in on it, in which case you're fired, or you're too stupid to have figured out that you were being scammed, in which case you're fired. Either way, get out of my casino, is what he tells the guy. So, Brie Bella, either you're incompetent or you're an asshole. Either way, whichever one of those two you want to be. Either you're so incompetent that you're hurting yourself and others because you're an accident, or you're deliberately hurting yourself or others. Either way, I don't want you anywhere near my ring.
Well, I need to jump in here because I want to throw a caveat, and I think George, this plays into what you're feeling too. And that is to say, if this incident with Liv Morgan a couple of weeks ago had been the only thing, it's a completely different discussion. Like if the Liv Morgan incident was the only blemish, the only major botch that put her or someone else at risk, and then you're more likely to look at it from a situation, well, accidents happen. Yeah, it was a careless accident, but still.
Yeah,
the
like
fact
we
that,
talked about Owen Hart. Accidents happen. And I mean Owen Hart injuring Steve Austin, not Owen Hart's death.
Right, yeah.
That's what I meant.
From SummerSlam 97, correct.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I meant.
Right, but we're looking at the case of Brie, it was not just the Liv Morgan incident. This had been building for 3 or 4 weeks. We had, for one thing, every match Brie wrestled in, there was a significant botch. Now, not necessarily a life-threatening or injury-causing botch, but there were botches. There were botched spots. There was the botched pin sequence with Maurice at the pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell. There was the 2 suicide dives, which were closer to the life-threatening botches. She could have broke her neck. And that was something else that was lost. A lot of people talked about that kind of got lost in the narrative. It's not just Brie hurting other people, it's Brie being a risk to herself. You know, it was one thing to miss the dive the first time and then to go and try it the second time and miss it equally as bad. You know, I mean, we're talking about a move, and Sasha Banks was terrible at this too. She would try those suicide dives and get caught in the ropes and take just horrendous bumps where like she folds like an accordion and she could seriously concuss herself, break her neck, break her jaw. She lands face first. It's just, there's all sorts of nasty things that can happen. And Brie putting herself in that same risk, trying a move that she's just not capable of doing physically. You had the incident where she cold cocked Ruby Riott with a stiff right, gave her a hard way shot. Ruby didn't very much appreciate that. You could tell during the match.
Ruby turned around and paid her back for it.
Yeah, she got her to see for it.
And it was over.
Yeah. And then you had the Liv Morgan incident, which was it wasn't just on Brie. The second kick, I can't really put that on Brie because Liv was unconscious and couldn't protect herself and was going down. And Brie had no way of knowing.
How about dragging her by the neck in the corner?
Yeah, no, that's bad. And that's on the referee, too, for not recognizing that.
There's more than one person we can blame here. Don't get me wrong.
Right. It's a symphony of a systematic, what's the word I'm looking for? A
systemic failure.
Systemic failure on multiple people's parts.
Absolutely, it is, and the referee absolutely screwed up. Don't get me wrong. He's not innocent in this regards in any way, shape, and form.
Yeah, the referee screwed up. The doctor screwed up.
Yep.
Bree screwed up.
Vince screwed up.
Yeah, absolutely. They all screwed up. The only person who didn't screw up was poor Liv Morgan.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I said this on my show a couple of weeks back. The final ultimate blame for all of this whole thing with Brie is Vince. It can all be laid at Vince's feet. Every botch in every match can be laid at Vince's feet. Every single one of them.
I mean,
no,
yes,
he has no excuse because he is the one in Gorilla with the headset on.
Yeah, but I don't think Vince McMahon said, "Hey, kick her in the face so hard that you knock her out."
Vince McMahon's the one that brought her back.
Well, okay, now if we're talking about someone that's a negligent worker that Vince puts on TV, yes. If we're just talking like an Owen Hart once in a blue moon accident, I don't think we blame Vince for that necessarily.
No, I don't.
But putting a worker like Brie Bella, who has no business being on TV right now, yes, I see what they're saying on that front.
But the thing is also, you're going to say that there's quite a few wrestlers that don't belong in there either until they shape up.
Well, that's okay, and that is.
Well, I mean,
okay, we can say
I'll grant you the premise that Vince McMahon should shoulder some of the blame for putting these bad wrestlers on television. I'll grant you that premise. But can we also grant the premise that wrestlers are also then bad?
Say that again.
I said I will grant you the premise that Vince McMahon should shoulder some of the blame for putting bad wrestlers on TV. But at the end of the day, they're still bad wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's like,
I mean,
there's other wrestlers that are terrible.
Sure, but that doesn't absolve. But I mean, that doesn't absolve
Alexa Bliss, who's now injured for possibly has a legit injury, and there are people out there saying Ronda did it.
But Alexa Bliss being bad or good, or Nia Jax being bad or good, or whomever being bad or good, doesn't let Brie Bella off the hook for being bad.
I didn't say that. I'm not saying that. Okay, George, I'm not saying that. But let's compare. We're not doing apples to oranges here. We're doing apples to apples. Let's talk women wrestlers that are bad. Have been bad. Brie Bella was never that great. Okay, she was bad.
Yeah.
Nikki Bella finally got her shit together. So
took a long time, but she got her shit together.
We'll get her off the list. Alexa Bliss is bad. Nia Jax was bad. She got her shit together after the incident with Bayley. because she was given time. That's all. You know, granted, Brie Bella needs time. She should have gone down to the performance center and worked out.
That's you're 100% right. It's too bad they don't have a multi-million-dollar training facility that they can teach people at. Oh wait,
yeah.
You know, like, oh wait.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, and we need to draw a very distinct line between bad and unsafe.
Yeah,
like there are plenty of bad wrestlers in the WWE today, women or men, that are still safe in the ring. Titus O'Neil is a god awful wrestler. I've never seen Titus injure someone. You know,
I've never seen a real botch from Titus.
Bray Wyatt is a bad professional wrestler. I'll say it. Has he ever injured anybody?
No.
Like, even though he's terrible. You know?
And we need and this is the most important thing of all. This is Tommy Dreamer's point, and this is why I was so cross with what he was trying to say. Nobody in their rational mind, and I'm going to say this to anybody that believes this, under no circumstances did Brie Bella go into the ring that night with the intention of hurting Liv Morgan.
Absolutely.
That's just an idiotic argument. Nobody was making that argument. If they were, they're idiots.
There have been people out there doing that.
Well, then they're dumbasses.
And they're dumbasses. And they don't deserve to be taken serious.
And then you have the ones that are out there telling Brie on her Instagram and on her Twitter and other forms of social media that she needs to go kill herself for doing what she did.
Wait a minute. Okay, I am fucking sick. And I'm not saying you're doing this, but I am pissed off at people that do that. They go to the fucking fringes of an argument and they take the crackpots and they act like it should dissuade the entirety of the debate. That's not how it works.
I'm not dissuading it, man. I'm pointing out something that is a known fact. That's all I'm doing.
But that's not. But you can't go straight to the crackpots and act like it covers the whole thing.
If you'd have waited until I was finished with my statement.
I said you weren't doing. I'm not saying. I said in my defense. I said I'm not saying you're saying that. But that's something else that was in the sphere of the conversation that people were doing. Not you, but people were doing. They were pointing out the comments that the crackpots were making.
Right.
That doesn't.
I pointed those out.
Right.
Calm down. Calm down a minute, Biff. Calm down. Take a deep breath, okay? And listen. I pointed them out as one extreme. Okay? Then there's the other extreme that is in 100% support of Brie Bella, saying that, you know, and I've said it's an accident. I don't have a person in this fight, a dog in this fight. You know, what happened. Was it a sad state? Was it a sad series of events? Yes. Are there people to blame? All around there are. But I'm not going to sit here and have one side saying that she needs to go hang herself, and the other side saying, no, you know, it was an accident, give her the benefit of the doubt. You know, I try to look at it objectively.
Exactly.
And it's a situation that happened that there was a total and 100% breakdown of communication from top to bottom. End of story.
And we need to be equally as offended by the people telling Brie Bella to go kill herself on social media as anything, because that's crossing an entirely.
It does bother me. It does bother me.
That's an entirely different level of wrong. When you talk about someone that went into the ring and is just trying to do what they're supposed to do out there, and you tell them to go kill themselves, you are the scum of the earth. So,
and it was done. It was done. It's out there. It was done.
And they deserve to be told off.
Right.
Never would dispute that fact.
No, and I'm not saying, you know, there's people saying that she went out and did it on purpose. She wanted to take Liv Morgan down, and it's like, no, she didn't. You know, and one thing that really bothers me, and this is probably going to set you off again, Biff, and I said this before on the show when we talked about it. Brie Bella does not owe any of us, the fans, an apology. The only person she has to apologize to is Liv Morgan, and that is all.
I was pissed off she apologized, and I told you that, Takers.
Yeah.
We agree with that.
She can apologize to Liv Morgan, but she does not need to apologize to the fans.
Two things. And first of all, two things, and this is not unique to Brie Bella. Anybody apologizing on social media is doing it in part because all they want are likes and retweets and validation. That goes for anybody. That's not just Brie Bella, obviously.
That's right. That's everybody.
Hey, look at me. I'm a good person. Slap that little heart button on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all. Second of all, if it were me, and I hate to use this guy as an example because he's a piece of shit, I would have done what Sami Callihan did when he broke Eddie Edwards' face, and I would have said, I'm a real fucking shooter now, bitches. Come at me. Yeah. Come at me. Hey, Liv Morgan, sorry I kicked you in the face, but that's what happens when you step in the ring with the real shooter, Brie Bella. You'd have
loved it. And you would have loved it.
I would have loved it. Because last time I checked, the whole point of this stupid-ass endeavor is to incapacitate your opponent until they cannot answer a 3 count. Right?
Well, she did a good job of it that night.
Yeah, that's the point. Right?
Yep.
That's the point. Like, but I say this all the time, guys, and this is why I love this show. This damn business is passing me by. I'm convinced of it.
LL, what do you have to say about all this?
Oh, yeah.
LL, what do you got to say about all this?
Not much.
Probably for the best.
They don't call her. They don't call her the curator of the connoisseurs for nothing, folks. The best in the business.
No, because I think I'd piss everybody off. So
no, go ahead. We've all said our thing. It's your turn. We'll be quiet, right, guys?
Nope, I don't want to piss everybody off. So nope, I'm staying out of this.
I mean, I set Biff off already.
No, you didn't set Biff off. The people that were using that
example. I had to bring that. I had to bring that out, though.
Yeah, but I wasn't saying that you were doing it. I knew you weren't doing it. It was the people that brought it up and using that in that way. And it was more of for your consideration, the soapbox rant incoming, not that Taker's Minion was doing that.
No, I won't do that. You and
I were on the same page the last time we talked about this on the Shoot the Priest.
Right. So. And it's like, I'm like this. Brie Bella did not owe none of us, not one fan, an apology.
You're 100% correct. She doesn't owe anybody anything. You're right, my friend.
The only one she owed an apology to was Liv Morgan, and she was in the back, according to reports that we've all heard and seen, or all heard and read, in the back, crying, apologizing repeatedly to her, to Liv Morgan.
I would have turned it into an angle, but she didn't because 2018 wrestling, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I think Brie owes me an apology for pretending to be a wrestler and offending my eyes for 15 years now, but that's neither here nor there.
That's not, there are people, believe it or not, there are people out there that love her. That love her as a wrestler, and her fans, she has her fans, just like,
I think her music is sneaky good.
I don't like that. I can't stand that music.
Well, there are
Brie mode.
No, I can't stand Brie mode. No,
there are people that think Spam is a 5-star meal too. I'm not knocking Spam,
Brie mode is sneaky good.
Pepsi.
Brie mode.
You're all wrong.
God, I can't.
You want to take us home, Mr. Biff?
Yeah, I think we can wrap this up. It's been quite an eventful thing. We started with the bloodiness of Abdullah the Butcher, and we wound up with the bloodiness of World War Bella. And but that's what we like to do here on the
real shooter, Brie Bella.
I swear to Christ, if that comes a real thing, I'm blaming you.
Blame me. Hey, she could have said that you step in the ring with the real shooter.
Yeah,
and she could have trademarked it because she is a savvy businesswoman. She should have trademarked the real shooter, Brie Bella.
If that comes about, I'm gonna laugh my ass off.
I hope it does. God bless her.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
What?
I don't know if anybody's been keeping up with the baseball scores, but Biff is happy right now.
Wow.
Bottom of the 4th at Yankee Stadium, the Red Sox are leading by a run or two over New York. 10-0.
When the Red Sox play the Yankees, I cheer for the giant meteor.
Well, not everybody has taste, so what can I say?
I mean,
I hang out with you. I hang out with you once a week, so I definitely have a blind spot or two.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Speaking of, Biff, what are we doing tomorrow night?
Oh, well, we're going to have a little bit of a word after this to make sure it happens tomorrow night. No.
The thing about it is, Biff, is this. Both George and myself don't have a dog in this fight, nor Legends Lover for that matter, because she's a Philadelphia Phillies fan. So the three of us don't have a dog in this fight.
I made it very clear. When I posted that fake song lyrics that the game was not yet over, and I thought the Chicago was going to win. I'm on record saying I wish that Chicago and Atlanta had gone to the NLCS. That would have been my dream NLCS matchup.
You ran your mouth, and now you're backpedaling, looking for some karma.
My dream World Series, George, is this. The Chicago Cubs versus the Boston Red Sox.
My God, the insufferable bowl.
Two
incredibly insufferable fan bases, and I say that as a member of one of them.
Yes, and I say it as a member of the other. So.
Or the Battle of the Pinstripes.
No.
Oh, no, two more insufferable fan bases.
You know what I mean?
Whatever. You know what?
The Cubs wear pinstripes, and so do the Yankees.
We know the first one. You would have gone for that one.
I would have gone for it.
It would have been 2-1 on that one.
Yeah, I would have gone for it.
Nobody with taste wants to watch the New York Yankees in the World Series.
Yeah.
At least Boston hadn't won 27 titles.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do?
We were looking at the one that was
24 of them before integration or whatever the hell it was, right?
We were looking at the one of the Cubs against the Red Sox.
I would love that.
2003, it should have been Chicago and Boston. I firmly believe.
Thanks for nothing, Aaron Boone.
Yeah, fuck you, Aaron Boone, and Dontre Willis and Steve Bartman. Jim Brickman.
Moises Alou, Dusty Baker. That son of a bitch.
Dusty Baker, he left the starter in too long, but we can go on and on.
100% he did.
We're going to have to do an episode of the 2003 playoffs, I think, one day, just as a form of therapy.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Look, the Cubs won in 2016.
Well, George, you noticed what happened.
Yeah, but just because the Cubs won in 2016, just because the Red Sox won in 2004 doesn't make Bill Buckner any less painful.
Doesn't make Aaron Boone any less painful either.
Yeah, so
And the thing about it is too, I have to give the Cubs organization props, George, for what they did with Steve Bartman.
I don't. I hate everything. I hate Jim Hendry. I hate Dusty Baker. I hate Steve Bartman. I hate them all.
But you don't hate Theo and Jed.
Because I love batshit crazy Carlos Zambrano.
You don't hate Theo and Jed Hoyer, do you?
Nope. Well, I mean, they haven't fired Chili Effin Davis yet, so I'm starting to hate him a little bit.
That was a mistake hiring that man.
Yep. They haven't fired him yet, so we'll see.
Well, the good news for all of you baseball fans out there, the Red Sox look like they're about to take care of business.
What's the score?
It's 10-0 in the bottom of the fourth.
10?
Yeah, Boston's up 10-0.
10?
Yeah.
Wow, holy shit. That's good. I can watch the football game now.
Well, they're at halftime. The Saints are up 26-6.
Well, good. I took the Saints, baby.
Oh, God. Get wrecked.
Yeah, well, it's 6.5. 6.5, it was pretty.
Houston won last night, didn't they?
Yeah, in overtime, and the game was no good.
Yeah, Dallas laid a poo-poo on the field. So.
Well, let's see. Do you want to hear of a strange win yesterday? I watched this game. Detroit and Green Bay.
Weren't they up like 20-0 at the half or something?
Yeah, 23-0 at the half. But here's the funny part, George. The Green Bay Packers had twice the offensive yardage that the Detroit Lions had. And they freaking lost. Figure that out.
Well, football, man. Football will never not be crazy.
The NFC North in particular is like a big giant question mark. Because Minnesota
I still have no idea if Minnesota's any good.
I don't either. Nobody. I don't even know if Philadelphia is any good this year.
I'm pretty sure Philadelphia's not good. But a month from now, I think they're going to be really good.
Don't say that too loud, George.
No, I'm saying right now on October 8th, Philadelphia is no good. But
your partner's in the chat. You know that, right?
I'm saying right now on October 8th, the Eagles are no good. But a month from now, once they figure it out, they'll be fine. That's my hot take. Mid-November, we're going to be like, hey, guys, the Eagles are pretty good again. Like, that's my take. Is
I
it right
know-
now?
I'm not saying the Bears are good right now, but
The Bears
It's
may not
early.
have to, they may not have to be good in this division.
No,
the way
exactly.
the way their defense is playing, it's kind of reminding me of 1985.
Just like in 1985, they don't have a quarterback. So,
Mhm.
Whoa! What's wrong with
85
the
Bears, the 85 Bears, and I've said this before, George, and I'll say it again. The 85 Bears had the most dominant defense in all of NFL history.
that's great.
And
I'm tired of hearing about them. I'm tired of fucking hearing about them.
And a mediocre offense at best.
I'm tired of hearing about them.
They had a great-
2015 Panthers should have been in this conversation, but we
I think Cam Newton's still running away from that fumble.
Yeah, we finkled when it counted. So
Yeah, I think
Oh, but
Cam
speaking
Newton
of-
still doesn't want. I still think Cam still wants nothing to do with that fumble.
speaking of the anti-finkle, though, how about Graham freaking Gurneau? Woo! 63
Yeah,
yards for
63,
the
right?
win.
All
He
right,
got
let's
cleared
wrap
at
this
about
up, guys. We
68.
got to wrap this up.
Biff, tell the class what we're doing tomorrow night, you and me.
Yeah, we got a special tomorrow night. George and I are going to do a special broadcast tomorrow night. We're going to look at the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame ballot. And we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the people on it this year. Talk about some of the candidates, debate maybe who should get in, who shouldn't. Just have a good old time, really. It's something we've been wanting to do for a little while, and we're going to take a crack at it tomorrow night. So I think we're going to drop that, what did we say, about 8 p.m.?
8 your time, 7 mine.
Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central here on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking no more than 90 minutes. Probably should be enough time, right?
yeah, it should
There,
be a
90
little,
minutes, something like that.
fun little project, but that's
Yeah.
something to be on the lookout for.
I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys listen to it.
Yes, very much so. It's going to be an awesome show. And speaking of awesome shows, a lot of people that listen to us listen to Two Guys One Sport. They caught the draft episode last week. They're going to be picking that back up on Thursday. Contrary to freaking popular belief, Biff did not cry during that show.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I moaned. And
He was
Biff
cutting onions.
groaned.
He was chopping onions.
No, wait a minute. There's a difference between moaning that your pick got taken and crying. I didn't cry.
But every pick you were moaning.
That's not true. I gave
Most
props
picks.
to people. No.
75 to 80% of the picks you were like,
30%.
no. I
30.
listened to the show live, remember? I
You're
was
old.
there.
Takers was my draft guru. He was giving me advice. Thank you, Takers.
Taker, you're old, and George, you're young.
Biff, you were having a temper tantrum.
LL, you're.
She's right. You were having
Right.
temper tantrums.
I don't know where to go here. It's not going to get back. So I'm gonna just
Do the plugs, my friend.
let's go to the plugs. Yeah. Let's go straight to the plugs. Two Guys One Sport Thursday afternoon, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central on YouTube. George and Chris, the gang, have one of the best shows around, so definitely give them some love. Check them out. Thursday mornings, Groundswell Development with Greg the Hold, a.k.a. the Saskatchewan Spinning Nerve Hold, and myself, talking NXT and 205. We'll have full coverage of the Cruiserweight title change. Buddy Murphy, new Cruiserweight champion, one of the best matches on that show. From
Fun
Australia,
match.
by the way.
Very good
fun
match.
And some big matches in NXT coming up this week, too, that we'll be reviewing. The triple threat match between Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and Adam Cole. That's going to be fantastic on Wednesday. So be sure to check out that show. They drop Thursday mornings. So Groundswell Development Thursday morning, Two Guys One Sport Thursday evening. That's the perfect day of podcasting for you. Of course, our weekends would not be complete without Shooting the Breeze with Taker's Minion and Mr. Doc Sent You. They drops every Saturday morning on YouTube for the moment. 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Eastern on the weekend of the Big Four shows. But that's going to be moving to Twitch here soon.
Yes.
That was dropped on Saturday's show. Pretty
December
exciting.
1st is the date.
Yeah, so you got a few more weeks on YouTube. That'll be moving to Twitch in December. So pretty exciting stuff for the Shooting the Breeze crew. Of course, we have a couple other shows that we'd like to plug the Connoisseurs of Wrestling. Obviously, you know, it's our show. We do this every Monday night. We love what we do. We have fun with it. Be sure to pound that subscribe button. Give the video a like if you listen to it. And be sure to vote in the advert thread. We throw polls up every week. Sometimes it has bearing on the show. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just for fun. But also good questions in there. Gets the conversation going. You know, just love to hear back from people that listen. And let us know what you like about the show, what you want to hear more of. There's all sorts of topics out there that we could cover. Trust me, we ain't going to run out of stuff to talk about anytime soon. So if you got anything that you want to hear specifically, you know, hit us up. We will be having a few programming changes. We'll have some people that'll be absent for a few shows in the weeks to come. We'll get you some more information on that. We may have a few guests come in. Haven't decided yet. But next week's show is going to be a lot of fun. I know we've been talking about this theme, this Monster Heel theme, you know, Monster Mash theme for October. We're going to be talking about some of the more famous characters in wrestling history next week. As far as the individual plugs, though, George, where can they find you during the week?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Giatsavis, G-A-T-S-A-V as in Victor E-S. My show's Twitter feed with scheduling information and all that stuff is at 2guys1sport, the number 2 and the number 1. And we are on Thursdays at 9, 8 Central.
Yep.
LL, where can they find you during the week?
Windstorm64 on Twitter. Here every Monday night. And I've been going into Crazy Chris's Twitch show and watching his stream. You can find me there.
And Taker's Minion, where can they find you during the week?
You can find me at Twitter on Twitter at Takers_Minion. Yes, I've made my triumphant return to the daily and the nightly, so you can catch me there. You can catch me, of course, on Saturday mornings at 11 Eastern, 10 Central for Shooting the Breeze, and here every Monday night. Biff, of course, where can they find your wonderfulness?
I heard that tinge of sarcasm in there.
I was thinking it, Takers.
Yeah, I know you were. I love how I'm one of the founding members of this show. Been here, I'm one of the OG connoisseurs. And we get the full house in, and all of a sudden, Biff is the punching bag of the show. That's dandy. Well, you know what? You're going to find my happy ass watching baseball most of the week. So don't even bother tweeting me. I'm not going to respond. I'll see you on Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow for the Observer show. And then I'll see you Thursday to beat you down in the draft. And everybody else, you know, kiss my grits. I'll see you next week.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, Biff just went heel. I don't give a damn. My boys are up 10-1. I don't care.
Biff dropping the leg at Bash at the Beach. The long-awaited Biff heel turn.
Well, Biff been getting booed on this damn show.
Boo!
I'm sitting here, this penny-ante promotion that I bring out of obscurity, and I get treated like a jerk. So you know what? Forget it. I'll go heel. I'll be the vengeful little butthole. I'll be that little annoying little cut that never goes away.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. That was a much less nice of a word.
He knows better.
No.
I was like, whoa.
We're not. We're PG. We're generally PG here. So
whoa.
We need to get out of here before it gets too crazy.
You're right, my friend.
We broached that topic a long time ago.
Let's not forget the reason we were here today. Abdullah the Butcher, one of the all-time greats. It was cool to talk about him and reminisce about him.
Yeah. It's funny to hear your dad was just as scared of him as I was.
The first thing he said, man, that guy scared me when I was a kid.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I'm sure he did.
Scared me.
You know what? I hope one day, man, and I think this is a good parting shot. I hope that there's an 8-year-old kid somewhere who's as scared of a wrestler as my dad was of Abdullah the Butcher, and I was of Big Van Vader. I hope that there's there's a wrestler out there now who scares a little kid as much as I got scared by that guy, and you got scared by Abdullah, because that really makes wrestling pretty magical, huh?
Yes, it does. That it does. You know, but that's what it's about.
That's it. That connection, right?
Yep, getting the kids involved.
That's it. That's it.
And I want to, you know, on that subject, and we were talking about, you know, just kind of throwing kudos out there. I think we can all three agree to throw kudos to Legends Lover, who was under the weather today, wasn't feeling very good, having some trouble. But she came on anyway to hang out with us. She comes on. Let Legends Lover know right now that she is the best of us here. I don't think there's any debate.
No doubt. No doubt.
Agreed.
Rock star.
So, you know, even though, I mean, she may be the quietest of us, but that's just because all the things are blowing hot air most of the time. But never let it be said that we don't love our Legends Lover. So,
yeah. She's a rock star.
Thank you, LL, for coming on here tonight. Thank you, Taker and George, for being here as always. We joke around, guys, but I think if you read between the lines, you recognize that we all four, you know, we really like each other, and we only
we all have respect for one another.
We razz each other because we care.
Yep.
You know, George and I wouldn't be doing a show tomorrow night if we didn't care.
Yep.
Taker and I would not be sitting here if we didn't care. I would be sitting next to LL because it's my mission in life to be your future ex-husband. So, but,
on that note,
I took all that goodwill and just flushed it down the toilet. So,
yep.
That's what heels do.
That's what they, yeah, damn right, baby. In any event, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It's been one hell of a night. It's been a crazy night. Expect nothing less when we talk Abdullah the Butcher. We'll be back better than ever next week. Until then, for George, for LL, for Taker's Minion, and for this old heel, Vic Kensington signing off. Thank you very much. Have a good week. And Adam Brown, God almighty. Adam Rice, I don't care what you say, your Browns still suck. All right, we're going. Bye.